Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and hope you are all well. This video is going to be focused on my top 10 Marvel Contest of Champions. Yes, it's going to be one of those videos. But do bear in mind, by the time this video comes out, I could be in New York. So therefore, it could be a case that some epic new champions have now entered into my roster and now changing my top 10. Which could be a thing. You can usually tell if the content is a pre-recorded video because the length of my hair, which at the moment is very long. So I'm looking a bit like a beetle of some kind, just a very shaggy dog. But before we go anywhere, please remember this. Go to twitch.tv/richthemanlive and follow for daily live streams, and don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment down below in regards to the topic of this video. Thank you. Oh, that's very important information. But let's get right into my top 10 and how they've benefited my roster, how they've benefited going up against certain content, and why I think they're so good. But do bear in mind, in the comment section, put who you think are your top 10. You can disagree with my top 10, but that's my top 10. What's yours? First champion in number 10 is King Groot. King Groot for me is something not everybody likes, but I do enjoy. There was something about King Groot from the start point, the way that he has regen as well as fury, that makes him very fun. But I do agree with a lot of people that damage output wise, he is just not up to par in comparison with other cosmic characters. I have the 6-star version, the 4-star version, and as well the 5-star version. King Groot as well is a fantastic champion for things like Variant 2. There's a lot of things that have been built in his favour, and the XL classification does mean that he is a fan champion. Up at number 9 is one of my favourites, and that is Hawkeye. Hawkeye from the get-go has been an underrated champion, but a highly usable champion when it comes to power draining off of an L1 as well as having a bleed. But you always know where you stand with this champion for consistency, and in a game when sometimes it's not always consistent, you can be sure that this guy has always got your back. I always find that if I was going up against some difficult opponents, if I've kind of messed up my infinite streak and I want to keep it alive still, and I've got this guy in the back burner, I'm like, do you know what? I need to put him in there because that L1, when enemy champions in arena do not want to throw their L1s or L2s and kind of push towards the L3s, you want to have one of these guys keeping your infinite streak alive, and he is just a fun champion. One of the biggest positives and one of the biggest negatives is hype around a certain champion. And I'm not going to say that it's wrong to hype up champions, but at times you get lost in the hype and you lose sight of why the champion is so good. Corvus Glaive has always been a champion I've wanted to get, and it took me a long time since his introduction to actually get him, which was kind of a disappointment, especially because the hype train for him has recently just kind of gone out with other new champions coming in, which is a positive because we've gone away from the days where we've gone, right, well, oh, Blade's the best champion, Spidey's the best champion, oh, this champion, this champion, this champion. It seems that every month we have a key champion that overshadows the next one, which is something we needed to have in the game. But Corvus Glaive still remains one of those great champions that is a real asset. It's important to look at things with your missions, and the extent of critical damage is just so darn tasty. I even took him on a little journey and thought, do you know what, let's go on the Sunspot for this uncollected. I'm not going to take this too seriously, have a bit of a laugh. And building up on a route against a mutant champion, a tech champion, I think one other type of champion, I want to say champion that did auto block, allowed me to get myself 3 of the charges, which meant that when I went against Sunspot, it didn't matter about the fact of incinerate damage too much. It was all about the extent of damage output that the criticals had. So I love that. I thought that was absolutely amazing. And as well, having him in the roster with Proxima Midnight does mean for some very tasty damage. My 6-star Sentinel. This is probably one of my most favourite ones, which I use for different content, and I'd love to get an Awakening. I actually think this would be a good contender for being the first rank 2 6-star in my roster if I was to get him Awakened. As I've said categorically, yes, champions are good that can be unawakened and put up to rank 2 as a 6-star, but I'm very cagey about how I rank up at the moment based on just getting the resources as quickly as possible. I don't spend too much in the game, so I don't really kind of get loads of tier 5. Due to time constraints, I don't have enough time to be in an alliance that does stuff that's overly competitive with stuff like map 7, and as well the same thing with Alliance Wars. So it needs to be a case that when I'm ranking up champions, and I would like to do this guy, I'd like to do awakened versions of 6 stars, but that's my own personal preference. You do you at the end of the day. However, this guy's amazing. Variant 2, absolutely fantastic. Used him so much. We've also got the Variant 3, where he is an absolute beast for, and just lots of other content. I use him in the Alliance Quest grind. Sometimes he goes into other different content, but it's mainly all content bar things like Alliance Wars, but I really enjoy him. I think he's a great champion. Sticking with the double immunities and Iceman. I love the aspect of double immunities. I think it's just such a cool thing to rank up champions that are going to be really helpful. And I decided that Iceman was the way to go with, as well as another champion we're going to put in this list in order to take on Crossbones. And I just love Iceman. I just think he's a great champion. Just damage is great. Debuff damage is the best thing about the champion. But as well, having a Korgan synergy does mean that you'll be able to get a little bit of an attack bonus, which is, again, fantastic. Coupled with a nice Heimdall synergy. Could be great for him. Yeah, great champion. The other thing to mention is Ice Armor. I do love that because it does save your butt sometimes when, so say you're going up against Hyperion or All or Nothing, you're kind of like, right, the enemy is not throwing anything, I'm going to have to take the L3 damage. Having Ice Armor up does mean that you're going to be able to absorb a lot of that damage in that particular armor. You'll lose it and then you'll get it back again at a later date, but it does mean it saves your butt, and I've had it save me so many times. Next up is Blade, and Blade has been one of those champions that has not fallen in the back or fallen to the wayside, but it's definitely come to a point where people don't say, right, well, Blade is the best champion, he's the god tier champion that everybody loves, everyone wants to get still, blah 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 blah. It's just not happened that way. As Kabam have really noticed over the years, they've needed to add in more of these god tier champions that are going to allow for players to go, right, well, this is going to be a lead champion. Blade still is a great champion. I use him still to this day and use him quite a bit. I think he's fantastic still with regeneration, the way that he deals with certain mystic champions, villain tag champions. And Kabam have got wise to this. That's why there are a lot of villains that we know as being villains are not hashtag villains, which obviously is a meme at the moment. Oh, I see you're a villain. Ah, but you're not a hashtag villain, are you? Because otherwise this guy would be able to take them down very easily. Either way, I love Blade. Great power gaining off the back of bleeding enemies. And yeah, just great damage output. Fantastic champion. Still use him. Great. Next up is Darkspine, another part of the Holy Trinity, or the old school Trinity, because there's a new school Trinity and another Trinity, and there's loads of Trinities at the moment, but whatever. The fact is Darkspine is still a fantastic champion. Using poise, using the ability to have an awakened version, whether or not you go with great power, great responsibility, from the point of view you're below 50% of your health pool, to what type of abilities that you use. And this play style, I think, is the key thing. Doing heavy attacks in order to power drain enemies is very effective, very fun. Great for Variant 3, great for grinding in Variant 1, and yeah, just a great champion. Fantastic against with evading as well. Annoying sometimes if you're going up against the champion. So there are so many amazing things about this guy, and it's just damage output. Like the extensive damage output of having 10 poise charges up, hitting him with an L2, putting in some amazing shock damage and amazing crits just makes you so excited to see this champion still to this day. And I feel that this is still a very good decision down the line, especially having new content like Variant 3, which was very tech orientated. It just gave me an excuse to brush off not the dust, because I still use this guy for stuff, content grinding, Alliance Wars, offensive. Still use him, love using him, think he is absolutely insanely good. Like taking on Domino with this guy as well. Screw the critical failure. I just love it. I don't know, I think a lot of people still like this champion as well. Next up is Medusa. Medusa used to be, and still sort of is, a very popular Alliance Wars defense champion. But as the future goes on, more defensive frustration champions do seem to be put in, and I do think that she's still good to this day, especially from using her in an attacking format. But again, there are a lot of other champions being put out which players seem to love. But I love the classics, and this is one of the classic ones I think is still good to this day. Act 6.1, a lot of usage for this champion. I have a lot of love for this champion for that reason. I did rank 5 for that purpose, to go into 6.1 and obviously to get the 100%, which I'm still working on. Medusa is a fantastic champion with armor breaks. Get the synergy right and you're going to have a just complete blast. And now on to our last two, starting off with Namor, who is got a name that's similar to a Scottish person. When you say, hey, is this enough chips on your plate? He goes, Namor! So there we go. That's a Scottish-based Namor joke that's not really funny. Any case, why is Namor so good? Where do I start? Great thing about it is this regen. Great thing about it, there's bleeds, special attacks are the things that kind of click off for having that regeneration. But mainly it's extent of doubling up those special attacks. You've got an L3. Oh, that's great. Have you got Imperious Rex? Of course. Hitting an L3. Boom. You've done it, you then got Imperious Rex, you got another L3, you're smacking it in again. You're then able to, off the back of that, do another L2, L3, L3, L2. God, and then maybe even a sneaky double L2, maybe even an L1 off that. Jesus, you've put in so many special attacks in a very short rate of time, and you've pretty much just demolished the enemy, which is absolutely fantastic. For those interested, I use Namor in a lot of Alliance quest grinding. I've decided that maybe it's not a case to use him in Alliance Wars most of the time when I come up against champions that are double immunity, or those champions that have some things like bleed. Like most of the time I seem to go up against Morning Stars, which does require this guy more. Having Stark Spidey in is important in order to damage output a lot more as well. And then at the far end I've got Blade, which that's kind of my Alliance Wars offensive team. But the one champion that I kind of leave free for a lot of stuff based on content grinding and getting through stuff more quickly is Domino. Yes, Domino is my favourite champion at the moment. It was a real difficult one because I thought Namor was the #1 champion. However though, based on just, again, content grinding, getting through stuff, I'm feeling that I have this... I feel fair. It feels like it's fair for me against the stuff and the crap that gets put towards us in-game from Kabam. With what you're able to use, I feel that this champion is a fair reflection on us as players just trying to get through content just kind of like stress-free, and I feel that Domino allows me for stress-free grinding. The bleeds, the critical bleeds as well, which are very tasty. Critical damage is insane at times. And I feel the balance between having lucky, where you're able to get away from attacks that enemies are throwing at you, and you can get some really cheeky evades from that. Mainly the champion for me is content clearing, especially when it comes to the usage of the beautiful Incinerate Trinity, which features Massacre and as well with Red Hulk. Very enjoyable, very fun, and yes, mainly it's for uncollected grinding that I use her, not to mention of clearing of side events or side quests, and a few other things as well. Used her a lot with Variant 2, using her occasionally with Variant 3. Loads of content this champion is great for, and I just feel that she's one of my best currently. There we have it. That has been the video all about my top 10 favourite Marvel Contest of Champions currently. This video may be updated when it comes to October or maybe November, based on the outcomes of my extensive crystal openings that will be happening in October, hopefully at New York Comic Con. So make sure you're locked to the channel for fresh news from New York Comic Con, from fresh videos from New York, because I will be posting not just videos like this, but also other videos as well. Thank you again for watching, and I shall catch you in the next one, and check out some other content here, and bye bye for now.